I talk extremely loudly on the podcast.
The broad.
Welcome back to my bedroom. This is where the magic happens. And by the magic, I mean the NOCLIP podcast. I'm Chad Rutherman.
I'm JJ Artemis.
And I'm Andy Kenneth.
And today we're going to be talking about The World Ends With You. The World Ends With You is a game that was developed by Square Enix in partnership with Jupiter Corporation, and was released in 2007 in Japan, 2008 in North America, and PAL regions. Thanks, Wikipedia. And is described as like a JRPG, but it's like the furthest removed you can be from a JRPG while still remaining one, as far as I can tell.
Also, it's on the Nintendo DS.
It is on the Nintendo. And you can get The World Ends With You, what is it, like, Best Foot Forward? I forget what it's called. It has like some kind of stupid name. They made a mobile version.
Okay.
Yeah, that like alludes to the fact that it's on one screen now.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
It is dumb. I don't have to tell you not to play it that way unless you have like an iPhone 4, because I don't think you can buy it anymore because it's not compatible with all versions.
Oh, that's
of
weird.
The iPhone. Yeah, it's a huge problem in the like the App Store mobile market is they keep updating the OS, so lots of old things keep getting outmoded. Like the old version of BioShock is off the store now for the iPhone for the same reason.
I mean, that's probably a good thing, because BioShock probably doesn't need to be on a phone.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Think of the atmosphere.
Think of how... I mean,
Think of the lack of atmosphere.
Yes, if you play it only on your phone while you're, like, in a tent, maybe?
Yeah.
Like
in your bed at night.
Or actually in a submarine.
Yeah.
That would be a good time to play BioShock Mobile. And the only good time to do so.
Do you guys know offhand whether it's actually BioShock Mobile, or I was under the impression it was just BioShock with shitty controls.
I believe that is the case. Though, you can actually Bluetooth like a 360 controller to your phone to play it if you wanted to.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. Pretty neat.
But anyway.
Alright.
Wait, I haven't gotten the chance to mourn the loss of Infinity Blade yet, the best iPhone game that no one can play anymore.
I don't think that game is that good.
I've never even played it.
Well, you can now, so...
Alright. So on to what we're supposed to talk
The
about.
proper game.
Your regular scheduled programming.
So, you guys actually had both played this game hysterically long before I even knew it existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually don't know how much the case that is for most people. Like, I don't know if this... Because I was under the impression that this game was like a super niche, culty game, but it was apparently like the #1 best-selling DS title at the time of its release. So that might not be the case.
It's certainly, like, considered niche in retrospect, but... and that's definitely assisted by how much the game seems to want to make itself seem niche. Like, it's one of those things where it seems like a lot of the design elements were put into place so that you could, like, look back at it 10 years later and be like, oh man, that's fucking weird. What is happening with this game?
Yeah. So my thoughts on this game are, that was fucking weird. What is going on with this game?
On the timeline stuff, I forget, am I misremembering, or was this game like one of the first games you ever got me to play?
Oh, God, I don't know.
I have this like...
I'm pretty sure I was just like, hey, I got this game. I think you would like it too. And you were like, yeah, can I borrow it? And I was like, yeah. Like, I didn't make a mental note of whether or not, this is the first game I got JJ to play.
It was a big deal. I have this...
Bucket list. Check that one off.
I thought, like, in retrospect, that it was like one of the building blocks of our friendship. Was like you know, like when you're dating people and you exchange flowers and stuff, but you're friends, so you exchange like video games instead.
God, I don't remember.
This got a lot deeper already than I was prepared for.
You can't complain to me for me bringing emotional depth into the podcast when you opened it.
I feel like we had already been friends for like over a year at the time.
I mean, maybe we might have been.
I think that's the case.
It's one brick.
One brick.
It may be on top of other bricks, but it was a brick that I remember.
So the question then, how old were you guys when you played this?
So that would make us like 16-ish.
Yeah.
So, okay. That, to me... I don't know. I don't know how... Because, like, I have noted that I am becoming, like, worse at certain things as I grow older. I am, like, profoundly terrible at this game. Like, just awful. And the thing about it is... I really liked this game. Like, I was, like, super into it the whole time I was playing it.
Really?
Yeah, I really like what this game is trying to do. I am so atrocious, though. I mean, it became, like, a physical hazard to continue playing.
I had a similar experience with my first playthrough as well. Like, especially back in high school, like, I did not put in the time with games to, like, really learn the systems and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I really coasted through this game, like, changed it to easy all the time and stuff. And, like, it's a game that I think definitely, like, benefits a lot from a second playthrough.
Yeah. It might get there for me. There are games that I haven't finished for the podcast. Spoilers, this is one of them. And a lot of the times I'll just be like, whatever. Like, I'm done with that game. Mm-hmm. I did my duty. Talked about it. This one I feel like I will go back to. I feel like it benefits, at least for me, from being able to play it like one chapter a day for 20 like actual days in the game.
I completely agree. Actually, the game seems, especially back in, which you can think back far enough to the era when, like, the DS, I don't know even the name of it, the stupid DS friend connection thing that it had, where
friend
like
codes.
No. Where you could, like, close the DS, and if you were, like, around other people, like, you
Street
could
Pass?
make magic happen. Yeah, that might have been it.
Street Pass is a 3DS thing.
Oh fuck. Isn't there something you can do where, with in The World Ends With You, where you, like, fight with friends, you like add friends to your list?
Is it the download play thing?
That's it.
Is it the Mingle tuner? Sorry.
Yeah, I think there was that kind of functionality, but, like, I've never known anyone else that had a hard copy of this game.
Yeah. I was even thinking, like, we should try out the multiplayer features before the podcast, and I realized that you had lent your ages-old copy to JJ again in a repeat scenario.
Dude, we could have, like, still, the two of us attempted to be some Slammurai for a little while.
Yeah.
God damn it. I'm pretty sure, JJ, you would have just wrecked Chad.
At Tintin Slammers?
How would I know? I don't know his skill at slamming. I assume you spent no time slamming.
I spent some time slamming.
Come on and slam.
Okay, alright. We're getting, I think, too much into complete nonsense.
Yes.
Instead of what the game is actually about. And I think the game is about its combat system. Like, I feel like that's its reason for being. Mm-hmm. As I discussed with Andy a couple of times over the course of the week that I've been playing it, the story of this game is really well written, and is something that we will talk about, I'm sure. But I feel like this game's entire, like, existence is kind of held up on how wacky and insane its combat system is.
Yes.
And, I mean, this is one of those novel games that actually makes a good use of the Nintendo hardware that it's been given, which is going to be kind of a theme, considering in about a month we're going to be talking about Trauma Center, which does the same thing. But this game in particular is just like, basically it's the embodiment of the fear that I had when I saw the DS for the first time. When I was like, you can't have a stylus and play a game at the same time. It would be literally impossible. And they were like, we're going to try to make it at least a little bit possible.
All right, then I think this is a good time. I want examples from you of the kind of badness that you ran into while trying to play this game. Because I don't know, like, when you stopped. I don't know what your first, like, big roadblock was.
I would go so far as to say that I didn't actually hit like a wall in the traditional sense. Just like I would be grinding my way out of minor inconveniences, which like snowballed into me being pretty over-leveled for most things. Mm-hmm. The only time that I changed the difficulty down from normal was on the boss of the first week. Which everyone online has told me is, like, easier than most regular enemy encounters.
Yes.
But apparently I did not think so.
So you kept your level slider pretty much always maxed? You never messed around
Unless
with the
I
level?
was, like, farming for something
Okay.
in particular. The thing that I found... Basically, I just find it completely impossible to either manage the top screen while still doing things on the bottom screen, or being willing to ignore the top screen and just do away with fusion combos at all. Like, I refuse to do that instinctually for some reason. So, like, I will continue to do that, and, like, I'll see it kick to auto mode, and I'll be like, oh, fuck, and then I go up and start mashing, which is basically worst case scenario, because that means the person on the top screen is doing nothing for the longest possible amount of time. I felt like I got the hang of it, like, midway through week 2.
Okay.
I started to, like, understand.
Good.
I also think that Joshua's sync moves are just, like, way easier to keep track of than Shiki's. Because it presents you with a problem immediately to solve, as opposed to, like, a memory game, when 900% of my brain power is going elsewhere.
Yeah, like, I don't know about you, JJ, but, like, the way that I handle the combat system is 100% or 99.9% of my concentration is going towards what Neku is doing on the bottom screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I find, like, different kinds of, like, patterns to, like, punch, just mash into the D-pad that seem to have, like, a higher likelihood of triggering, like, a fusion move.
Oh, absolutely. And they totally design the systems around the understanding that, like, at least 80% of your effort is going to go into bottom screen. Because the bottom screen, you have so much more agency over what's going on, right?
Yeah, 'cause,
you have so
like,
much more fine-tuned control and control over the kind of stuff you can do with the pin systems.
Right. Like, I didn't do any kind of, like, research into, like, what other people, like, on forums and stuff, like, how people play this game, if, like, anyone actually is able to do both at the same time. Like, because it seems impossible.
Yeah.
Because it would be like playing two different games at once.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I found to, like, help the issue is with your pin selection to just always have something that has a, like, blindly tap in one direction version of it. Mm-hmm. Because for a lot of the game, the two pins that I found that I liked the most were the Masamure, the, like, slash to do an attack one.
Yeah.
And I forget what it's called, but the ice spike that you, like, slide up and it just, like, puts a big fucking pillar up.
Oh, you like Ice Spike.
I
didn't
really like
expect
the ice spike.
that. Okay.
And for, like, a lot of week 1, I used those two, the healing soda, and a pin that, like, randomly inflicted, like, a stat decay on the enemy, like an attack break or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is cool. But I was totally unable to, like, do anything with the top screen because everything that I was doing required my attention on the bottom screen.
Yeah.
Then I discovered the boomerang pin, which is the greatest pin in the world if you don't care about or if you want to care about the top screen. Because you look at the top screen and on the bottom screen you just go like, bah, and just jab at it a bunch of times. And he fills the entire right side of the screen with boomerangs. It just works.
Dude, you bring up how great I think they implemented pin diversity in this game. Like, talking about making good use of the Nintendo DS's functionality, they did, like, every cool thing I could have imagined if I sat down in a room as, like, a way to implement or manipulate a character on a touchscreen.
Yeah.
And so they went so far in some cases that there were some misses, but there were just so many pins and so many hits that you don't have to care, because the number of pins that you get is so large compared to the number of slots that you have to use pins.
Yeah, it's, like, almost too much. Or I would say it is too much. It's, like, overwhelming the number of pins that you have.
Yes.
I almost want to say that it's like it's almost identical to me to creating a party in Pokemon, Where it's like, except it's like if they just threw Pokemon at you all the time and
For
didn't
free.
stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have to catch them. You just walked into tall grass and Pokemon jumped into your pockets. That's basically how the pins work.
But yeah. In my case, and this is to bring sort of the last two conversations together, my favorite pin, and then there are multiple of this sort of type, but it's the very first, like, teleport pin that you get. I forget the, like, inputs and stuff, but even now, I have this really strong memory going through the game of the first time I played it, hitting my first wall against, like, one of the, like, secret bosses or whatever, and I don't know.
The blue noise.
Yes, because it was the first blue noise is this fox that drops that pin. And it was such a great pin, and it was the first time I felt like I actually had to try and, like, master positioning under the system. Like, actually care about where I'm standing and treat it more like the sort of, like, third-person action game and less like a dual-handed spam than anything else.
I never really liked the teleport pin, personally.
What did you like?
What does it do?
It's like a version of the dodge that's actually usable and instantaneous.
See,
You can just
I
move
actually
quickly
really
now.
like the dodge.
Really?
Like the vanilla dodge, yeah.
Oh, God.
It's hard to get used to, but once you do, it's really useful and satisfying to use. Like, the trick is to not use, or for me, it was to not use, like, a flame pin or anything like it, where you drag to use the move, because you'll accidentally trigger that all the time. But, like, once you figure it out, I think it's really reliable.
Yeah. I love the idea that like a partial concession to the imprecision that has to exist in, like, DS-style touchscreen controls, that they allowed you, based on the order of the pins that you chose, to select pins that have, like, priority of assumption. That's such a cool idea, and something that I had to imagine came in late, that you can be like, if the game is unsure which of these two things I want to do, let's default to this one first instead.
Right.
It's a way to have agency.
Yeah, that's the way I like to set up my pins. Is like I like the slash move as well. So I have a slash pin, and then it'll go. All my other ones are just tapping based.
Right.
So like I'll just tap and I'll be like shooting whatever, and then I have the one where the rocks fall. So I just keep tapping and just keep attacking them.
Yeah.
Square Enix both, like, far exceeded my expectations and underwhelmed me massively when it came to dropping things onto opponents. Because the rocks thing in this game, I was like, why aren't the rocks just bigger? Like, it just would have been more satisfying, even if it was still doing the same amount of damage, to be dropping, like, huge boulders, but it looks like you're just, like, throwing chocolate chip cookies at them. And then, like, in Chrono Trigger, you drop, like, a giant rainbow frog on a dude. Like, that was awesome. Not satisfying. I got rid of that shit immediately.
Well, there's different concerns with an action game versus a turn-based or pseudo turn-based
Yeah, that's fair.
RPG.
Yeah, I'm on the two-screen stuff, since I haven't weighed my 2 cents in, I think, on that either. Yeah, I generally spent all my time on the bottom screen doing cool implementations of noise and spending a lot of time spamming just left or right, and to the point where I'd often look up and realize I was just, like, throwing Shiki's stupid little bear thing over and over again into nothingness.
Yeah. See, I didn't really have a problem with that. Like, I was always able to, like, keep it in my peripheral vision and see, like, which side the enemies were on.
That is not a thing I am capable
The
of
good
doing.
person way to deal with the situation.
Yeah.
But
Well-
eventually, I had, like, checkups. Like, I would go up and be like, okay, what's my progress toward the next ultimate look like? What button input do I have to do to get the next ultimate? And
See,
then go
I
back
never
to the bottom.
ever even comprehended that bar at the top. Like, with Shiki, I found that, like, if the enemies are on the right, to, like, mash right a couple times and then just switch to left, and, like, for some reason, and then go back to right, and for some reason that would, like, trigger the fusion attack a lot. Like, just throw in some lefts when you don't think it would be a good idea to use some lefts, and it'll trigger the fusion attack.
That sounds like confirmation bias to me. you gotta jiggle a little bit. You gotta give it some waggle.
I found little, like, tricks like that with all three partners to make them trigger, like, more often in this playthrough.
Did you ever get to the third week?
I got to the third week, but I never fought a battle with Beat.
Okay. Andy, how do you do beat? How did you deal with beats like way to trigger fusions?
I don't remember with him as much. He's the hardest one to use.
It made me hate him more.
I think the idea is they want you to like attack things from above with him.
Yeah.
So like I want you to hit the up button before you start combos.
Yeah.
I think that makes it trigger more often.
Well, because Shiki also deals more damage if you start her combos in midair.
I never ever.
Which is because it's just another thing you have to like consider
about,
before you do it.
Oh yeah.
And it's like they throw that mechanic in, and like I had forgotten about it until like day 7. And I was like, oh right, I can jump. And then they give you Joshua who can't jump. And I was like, I'm just gonna totally forget this is a thing. And then I guess in the 3rd week would have been forced to try and learn it again.
Yeah.
Countering with Shiki was the one that I always forgot, where she can like
turn around and smack a dude. Yeah.
And
I
the
love
weird
that
thing.
Joshua can like port a dude to the other side. Like that one is really cool and useful.
Is that what the camera does?
Yeah, the camera
Okay.
phone. You move it.
Because I always hear like the sound effect triggering, and I'm
Right.
like, what does that do again?
It's like smile.
Yeah.
God. This game is just like a cacophony of mechanics.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
literally what I was. There was that was like my thesis on this game.
Yeah.
Like when I got to, there's a point in week 2 when you talk to cool guy coffee man.
Okay.
Cat.
Cat.
Let's call him Cat.
Sure. When you talk to cool guy coffee,
Cool guy coffee man.
cool guy cat coffee cafe connoisseur, he like
Or Mr. H is what they call him.
Yeah.
Instead of cool guy cacophony.
Cat coffee cafe man.
No.
And he upgrades your phone with a tracker, right? And you're like, what does this do? And he's like, more features is always better, right? And I was like, well, somebody definitely thought that.
Some meta humor there.
Yeah, because they just keep like, your phone menu is just like a fucking, it's absurd. You get 8 boxes of options, each of which has like a 11-page instruction manual on how to use. And so you're like 400 pins, and there are tiny icons that do stuff, and that I like forgot about, and like big icons, and it's just like,
Yeah.
ooh.
That's something I think is like almost inevitable in this game. Is there's going to be mechanics you just completely ignore. Like I was like every once in a while, like, oh yeah, like I guess I'll go buy some more clothes,
Right.
better clothes to put on. Well, I don't know what the fuck those do. And then I'm like, like all these food shops. Should I buy food ever?
Yeah.
Nah. Like,
Food is the one that I totally neglected. But it's really funny that, like, eating and digesting is, like, mechanically simulated for some reason.
Yeah.
In partial real time, where like you eat it in game time, but you become hungry in real time. That's what you probably didn't know because you didn't.
I didn't even know that you got
So here's how the
hungry.
food system works. In 1/18 of the food system works. It's you have like 30 like grid spaces underneath your name when you put
Right.
stuff in, and when you put food in there, you'll like each food will have like a different amount of squares that it fills up that are green.
Right, yeah.
And as you take like bites of the food
Right.
with a Y, because this game is cool, bites with a Y.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
I thought you meant you pressed the Y button. I was like, I was fighting battles. I could have just been pressing the Y button.
No. And those blocks at the top, it'll remove the green boxes but replace them with gray boxes. And those gray boxes, once you're full of those, you can't eat that much food
Right,
anymore.
you're actually full.
Yeah.
Man.
But those
Yeah.
are removed like every hour in reality.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, that's the thing I didn't know. I thought that it was like because it would then be scaled to a 24-hour day.
Yes.
So is that all like on its own menu?
And
Yeah.
that is
Well,
I've
kind
never
of.
even seen that screen.
it's on the equipment screen. It's the same
Yeah.
screen where you put
Oh,
stuff.
I've never even noticed that.
It's underneath the picture of your face, and of course you didn't notice it because this game is just nothing but noise. It's just
Yeah.
sound.
Oh.
Shut up.
This is gonna be worse than all the Link in the Breath of the Wild episodes.
But yeah, it's just there's always another button you can press, and the game doesn't expect you to pay attention to everything because you can't. Like, the main mechanic of the game is based around you not having enough attention to do both things the way that you could if you were paying attention to both.
So that's my question, I guess, is because both of you mashed buttons for the top screen.
I mashed with checks, thank you. I mashed and then did
some
checks.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Full benefit of the doubt to both of you. You mashed the top screen. Did you turn off the auto system?
No, I kept auto at max in case I was a dumb person and messed up.
Oh, I just kept auto at... Wait, max is in, like, longest time before it starts.
No, the quickest time before it starts.
Okay.
Like, if it's like 1 second I spend not hitting the button, it'll start doing stuff.
I didn't adjust it at all.
Yeah, I left mine on mid as well.
So that's 3 seconds. You get 3 seconds of nothing. So now you know how much time you wasted
right.
in all those circumstances.
Where I didn't. So I take everything back. I'm actually the best at this game out of everyone in the room.
Oh, yeah?
Wait until you get to that final boss.
Yeah, I'm not. I've watched the final boss.
That doesn't do it justice.
It does not.
Yeah,
it really just sticks you right in the mud.
They did the coolest, like what Square Enix usually does. They usually good at final bosses, but they did the coolest possible thing they could have mechanically, which is take away your partner.
Right.
So you do like no damage.
At least,
well, kicking your crutch out from under you is what I mean. Is always a cool idea.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like the last person who should be continuing the conversation on this game.
You seem like you had a train of thought.
I did, actually. It was... Oh, you know what? It's a stupid one.
Good.
But I am going to go with it. Because it relates to everything that we were talking about. Though, I think, due to the, like, interconnected web that is this game's mechanics, it would be impossible for one thing not to relate to another thing. So we just kind of we're having like a spherical discussion that has no designated end.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, you didn't really interact with the clothing, equipment, ability-friendly shopkeeper parts of the mechanics.
I mean, I did, but like I just didn't like really worry about it. Like,
right.
I did every once in a while. I'd pop into a shop. Well, I would check the shops regularly for like any pins and like quest items and shit.
Right.
But then I would like occasionally be like, oh, some clothes.
So, did you buy clothing and equipment and actually, like, use it?
Oh, yeah. Way more in my first playthrough years and years ago than my second, but once I... Because in both times, I tried to go through the game at, like, minimum level as much as possible, so I could get a billion amounts of money and sell it all to these clothes people. Second playthrough, I neglected on that a little bit because I just didn't want to go through trying to try every pin and like master all of them so I could sell them for more money.
Right.
I just continued to sit on my crutches and not really worry about it as much. But yeah, like I was like, oh man, I gotta buy all their things so they love me. That was very much
mine was less about the love and more about just like arbitrary like bonus goals that I was running into. And so I'd be like, hey, show up here dressed all in this brand. And I'd be like, oh, sure. Go do that. I haven't sold any of my pins yet. And just like dump all those into the grinder and pull it out. So my dumb point, and if you have a more like cognizant point about the equipment system, I'm totally cool to continue talking about it.
Yeah.
But did you ever get a piece of equipment for Shiki that changed her pattern into the shape of some weapon?
I got one that turned it into the shape of a cactus. Is that a weapon?
I think that's actually weirdly just like the default is like a cactus shape.
No, it actually...
Oh, it actually said
Yeah,
cactus.
I'm not like it's not like me being me and being like, oh, it was vaguely cactus-like. Like it actually said cactus on the screen.
Okay. The ones that I got were like spear and club.
Yeah.
And club was great. Because I don't know how the mechanics work. And then once I figured out how the mechanics work, I could see why the other one could be good. Because as you like hit the button more times, it deals additional damage to the thing, and then you get the finisher at the end.
Yeah.
And I thought the goal with your top screen person was just to get the finisher as often as possible. And so the club just seemed good because it changed it into like
a very short thing with 2 very short prongs. The spear, which I used for a really long time because I didn't know the clothing I was wearing did it. And it just happened to me.
Yeah.
Was this, like, mile-long combo chain. So when I would try to get to a finisher, it would require, like, 9 button presses.
Ooh.
And I would always get knocked out of it. And it was just super awkward and strange.
I assume since they gave that as an intentional option, there has to be an upside to not getting the finishers immediately, but I don't know what that is, because that's part of the mechanics that I couldn't possibly have had the time to explore.
It's probably like moving up and down, like, to different, like, branches or something. No, I don't know. That would be, like, my guess.
Well, the way that the spear worked would be that there would be, like... So it's... If you just mashed right, it would be, like, 9 straight across.
Right.
And if you went, like, right up, there would be 3, and then that was the thing. Mm-hmm. And then, like, right down, and then 3. So it was, like, a weird kind of a thing set up. It just made it really hard to ever get the fusion, so I dropped it real fast.
Yeah. Cheeking the fusions was, like, a really big goal of mine when looking for clothing. Like, if I got free stars...
Oh, yeah. I set that up, so by the time I was done with week 1, Shiki just started with 2 fusion stars. And I was like, oh, this is way easier.
Yeah. I think the true mechanic that I neglected most was, like, brand loyalty in zones and stuff, or trying to influence that in any way.
I don't think... Okay, yeah. The influencing is a thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, it seemed as though if you were having difficulty in an area, you could just fight smaller mobs to bring your shit to the top of the list, and then fight the boss, and it would be, like, better. Mm-hmm. But, man, that seems, like, unintuitive. They don't even explain that to you until, like, day 6.
Yeah. Because this is a Square Enix game, and you need a mandatory week of tutorial.
They're still introducing stuff into, like, week 2. Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, week 3 is the only one where it's, like, training wheels completely off.
Yeah.
Except for when you have to learn how to use beat.
Well, yeah.
Who has literal wheels that you
That's true, yeah.
Wheels back on. They're off the
off the bike.
And onto the skateboard.
I just like a skateboard with 2 fucking big wheels just, like, attached to the side of it.
But, so stable. But, I was always wearing the same stuff, and basically always using the same pins.
Yeah.
So I guess the brands that I use were always the best in every area.
Totally possible.
Like, there were a few areas where it was, like, weak brand, and it never really seemed to be that big of a deal.
It halved the damage. Is
right.
What it did.
But, I mean, like, it was only, like, a couple enemy encounters.
I agree.
And now it's not
Number 1.
Yeah.
Never that important, and whenever it ended up being important, you just had to go through so many menus to interact with it that was the reason that I cut it off.
I do really like the way they tutorialized that, though, with the red pin thing.
Yes.
And how that, like, ended up being important to the plot.
Yes.
Yeah. That was good.
Speaking of the plot, you said you liked the story. I'm surprised by that, too.
Really?
Yeah.
It's Battle Royale set in a modern day and with, like, weird Square Enix stuff stapled to it. With the exception of the weird Square Enix stuff that was stapled to it, I thought that it was a pretty good adaptation of Battle Royale.
Yeah, my thoughts were that if Chad doesn't just absolutely hate these mechanics, that he'll really like the story.
Yeah. I did totally fall into that camp. Like, it's a story that actually made me want to keep going. Like, it made me want to keep progressing through the story, but before I even had the slightest idea what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah.
And then is the reason that I'll probably go back and continue playing the game after this is done, but on a way more casual level.
It's like that perfect tier, like, of Square Enix story, where it's, like, not too complicated, like, it's this nice middle ground.
Well, except the end, they seem to raise the stakes to, like, the highest imaginable level.
Yeah, but I mean...
For almost no reason.
Yeah.
And, like, they're just gonna like get rid of the whole city. Like that's fine.
City irredeemable.
Yeah.
It's
Well-
it's almost like a Batman kind of thing.
I mean, to be fair, like the city is a way smaller scale than most like Final Fantasy games, which
Yes.
like
Yes.
the like whole realms of existence are like hanging in the brink. So that's I guess a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Still like angels and shit though. They couldn't cut out the
Yeah, a godlike entity.
God, like this is the discussion we were having earlier, just before you came over, actually, about like the like god, like, 'cause I never perceived anything in the game to be more than just like a guy, like a person, a human being, and like the Wikipedia immediately, like in the first like paragraph of the plot summary on Wikipedia, which is not the best plot summary I've read, it refers to the composer as a godlike entity, and I was like, that's nonsense. But then like more and more stuff started to come into my mind. It's like, oh, he kind of like, you know, governs life and death,
Controls Reapers.
operates sort of like a purgatory.
yes.
A little bit, it makes more sense. So they actually managed to take like the gods and angels and shit that were, I guess, expected in a Square Enix game, and even make that seem more down to earth and realistic than they would typically be able to.
Well, they put them in sweet threads. Like,
They
what
did
else?
put them in sweet threads. And that's how, because normally I find like squids to be like super gross and slimy. When they put them in cool outfits, suddenly you have like one of my favorite shooters of all time.
Yeah, they did a good job also of hiding like the most loriest of lore stuff until after you've beaten the game. I forget
like the hidden pages or whatever it's called.
Yeah, like the secret things that are also a Square Enix staple. But most of the time you get those mid-game, not after it. I remember you were telling me when we were younger about like oh you beat it, you got to keep playing it to find all these like secret reports.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were like, nah.
I've never actually even done that. I just know it's a thing.
Yeah, that's something that I read up on when I was trying to... I may have gone further than was needed when trying to like make sure that I was prepared, even though I had missed out on kind of a third of the game.
Well, that makes sense. The game has just so much everything in it that you're constantly terrified of what you'd miss.
They were like, oh, we didn't hit our... like the Square Enix golden ratio of like 1 part mechanics to 4 part lore. They're like, we fucked it up. We made it 43 part mechanics, 2 parts lore. So throw some secret files in there. So everybody, because this game has so much hidden as well, like just shit to do, that I was very quickly demoralized from like trying to pursue every avenue.
Yeah, it's like the story is what really keeps you going in this game, even though it is very much like about like experimenting with different types of mechanics like on the platform
Right.
of the DS. But like there's always something new being revealed to you, or like something new to do. Like it has this nice pacing and this nice like reveals that are just like spaced out really nice to keep you being like, oh, what happens on the next day?
Something that I had completely forgotten about this game until coming back to it, and maybe I was just a dumb person and didn't even like notice or register it in the first time, is how much I like this game's sense of humor. Like, it really departs a lot from like the normal Square Enix perspective, but we were constantly sending each other
of not having a sense of humor.
Right.
They like when I'm talking about like Moogles and stuff.
There's always levity in like at least older Square Enix games.
Right.
Yeah. I'm basically just talking about the Final Fantasy series generally. Other Square Enix games considerably more like open to humor than
right.
But like you sent me pictures of sexy D's and things like that. And I kept recording photographs over the game of just like weird out of context moments, like a man with a sensual face sort of like sliding backwards into an while he screams, come get some.
Hot stuff. Come get some. Yeah.
Yeah. The game is really good at like injecting personality, like with those little voice clips.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in all the right spots.
Yeah, that's actually because the sense of humor thing, I guess, struck me, but less than I think that I would have kind of characterized it as like, this is a game that's trying to be funny. I felt like it was a game that used that to really well characterize the characters in the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they became much more human than like a swordsman who fights for honor because his family was killed or something.
Right.
Like, these kids seem more relatable.
Yeah, the humor is really organic.
I do think that this game lands better as you're younger than when it's older, just because it's much easier to empathize with a lot of the problems that the narrative deals with, especially early on before things start to scale up into extreme importance.
Neku is much more relatable when you're a teenager.
Yes.
For sure.
Like, early game Neku to a 24-year-old is pretty grating as shit. But
Neku's character development's really good, though.
exactly. Once things start to scale up, you start participating in an actual story with people that you care about. But early game, it's still very much in a lot of the things that people tend to make fun of, and I was mostly coasting along on appreciation for the aesthetics, art style, and infinite mechanics.
Even then, though, they balance him out pretty well with Shiki. Like, I think a lot of their interactions feel like if a, like, well-adjusted popular girl and, like, a reclusive antisocial guy were forced to spend time together.
Mm-hmm.
Except the way that it plays out in the game is more like as if they were, I don't know how, they were opposite loads on some kind of pulley system,
Right.
where Niku starts as like somebody who's totally self-centered and an edgelord, and she starts out literally being another person.
Yes.
And they pull each other closer to the middle, where he
Right.
becomes like a tolerable asshole, and she becomes like a more comfortable with herself, like, but still pretty like neurotic human being. Yeah. They both get pulled toward the middle ground, but
Right.
neither of them really excels at the end.
It's more realistic that way.
I agree, actually. I just it does a better job of making a believable relationship than most like coming of age stories tend to.
Yeah.
They even make Beat feel like a real person somehow. Also, like his actual voice in the game, like he has a few little voice clips, is so not like how I imagine. Because he just has like a regular like teenage boy voice, but like I always imagine him having like a really deep, like deep voice. Like
I can see that
like
a little
not even
bit.
that it's like his natural voice. Like he's trying to have like sound
Oh, yeah.
tougher than he is.
Yeah,
Well,
I get
'cause
that.
Beat is Team Skull.
Oh yeah.
Like he even
from-
wears the skull on his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Pokemon Sun and Moon first got released, and I saw Team Skull and heard the music, like their theme,
Yeah.
I was like, "Are they playing The World Ends With You over at Game Freak?"
Yeah, I felt that very much when I saw him. Like immediately, it was just like, this is Team Skull.
It was a good way for them to use the one nice person dies early trope, because they surround that character with people who you can't really relate to yet because all of their problems are so ingrained. They seem like such like shitty 16-year-olds at the time when Rhyme dies, that every time she comes in, it's like a breath of fresh air because she just acts like a person instead of everyone else who seems to be surrounding her at the time. So when she gets eaten by a shark, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, I actually when I got the game, I was like, I liked Rhyme's character design like a lot. Like I like that character of just like, because she's wearing like a sweatshirt that's like clearly not hers.
Yes.
Like it's just huge. And I was just like, I like this already like my favorite character. And then I started playing the game, and then she just dies instantly.
Yeah, he said that like when he got the game, like, it came in the mail, and it's like, I think this is gonna be my favorite character right here, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah.
I remember when it happened. I remember
Have fun.
I remember when this happened. or when it actually, like, when her death actually occurs in game, I remember just, like, thinking, like, man, Andy did a really good job of not even letting on that this was gonna... Like, my biggest disappointment was, I was like, I bet she's not gonna be, like, a playable character or something. Oh, no. She just fucking dies immediately.
Yeah, she's only in, like, 10% of the game.
Yeah. She's close to a playable character if you count being a chipmunk.
She's a summon, basically.
She's a pin,
yeah.
But, it's like when... you got Dark Souls 3 and you were like, Yorm.
What a cool looking boss. I hope it's a great boss though.
And I was all like, oh yeah. It's like the exact same situation.
Every time I think something is going to be great, the game developers do something to ruin just that element of it.
I mean, you talking about the character design. So every character, including Neku, is designed in such a way that it's supposed to be this, like, evocative, cool, like, modern Japan teen lifestyle thing. When you're looking at the cover and all the promotional art, like, everyone on the front is supposed to look like abstract, stylized, cool. But despite that, through the whole game, everyone gives just Neku shit about what he's wearing. Yeah. Like, it's completely the same sense of style and cool fashion as, like, all the characters seem to generally try and present themselves as in the art. But they just think he's just the sloppiest fucking dude.
Maybe they just don't like the color purple.
Yeah.
Like, that could be it.
But it is weird, because that's how they tutorialize the clothing thing.
Right.
Kiki's like, Neku, you know, like, try changing into something, like, that's not shitty. Like, I don't know, I think his clothes are pretty cool.
I remember, like, I also thought that was a little bit weird. I also think that the greatest thing in the world for just me, probably, would be is if the clothing actually did change what your appearance looked like in-game.
Oh, yeah.
Because, of course, like, for most of the first week, Nico was wearing, like, a striped t-shirt and a pair of mismatched socks. Like, from the equipment menu.
Yeah.
And that would be so good if he was just, like no pants on. Like, just some, like, dumb, floppy old socks and a t-shirt. And he was like, focus your energy.
Well, because the way they did the equipment system, partially unfortunately, I guess for this hypothetical, is you have a lot of combinations. It's actually really hard to make, like, a full set of clothing that you wear.
Right.
Because, you know, wearing, like, a handbag suddenly takes up your, like, shoes slot. And
It's like, there's a head slot, like a head/accessories slot, I think.
Yeah.
And then, like, a shirt, pants, shoes.
I never got this straight. I never really understood. I just trial and errored, like, which things.
Yeah, you can't layer up like that. I was like, I'm not trying to layer up my high heels and a handbag.
Yeah. You would assume that, like, some clothing would give, you know, like, more room for accessories and stuff like that. But I guess, come to think of it, there were some outfits that I'm glad aren't, like... I guess they could have removed the outfits, but, like, you can there's, like, multiple different bikini sets and things like that.
There's weird, like, bondage clothing, too. Like, in one of the stores. It's
Is
really
it, like,
weird.
late game, or did I just not go into
I
these
think you
stores?
just missed it.
This is first week. This is all first week description.
So it's not Bravely Default, where you get rewarded with, like, creepy, skimpy outfits for your, like, 12-year-old protagonist.
No, like, I had, like, Neku had, like, some kind of leather pants with, like, straps.
Oh, yeah. Those are
like,
from the Tigra Punk.
It's like a punk store.
Yeah.
There's, like, a Hot Topic stand-in.
Right.
There's a goth store that sells, like, wigs and shit as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same.
They have every fashion represented.
Pretty much, yeah.
I did like those stores. They were cool stores.
Yeah.
Except for the rich person store.
Yeah, fuck that.
I didn't even know what the mechanical purpose of most of that was.
Of rich people?
No, like the store that sells, like, it just sells stuff that's expensive, and when you try and buy it, they tell you that you're like a slummy shithead and should get out of there.
I'll have you know, Chad, that becoming rich enough to shop at the rich person store is possible in this video game. If you try hard enough.
Is there a way to upgrade your wallet?
They sell it at the rich person store.
Those fuckers. Yeah.
That's That's how they do it.
Yeah.
That's how they stay on top.
To like have one point that's going to work with the notes about character design, and to make it so uncomfortable that we have to take a break. I will note that because of the weird like character design in this game, when Andy and I were trying to find a yaoi art picture of Niku and Joshua getting it on, it is like the only time I've seen fan artists draw sexualized versions of characters whose proportions are way more believable than the ones presented in game.
Yeah, like literally like all of the character designs, except for like maybe like Beat and like a couple of the villains and stuff, like are all super skinny.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
But it's like skinny to the point where you could not fit organs into them.
Right, yeah, like it's
Yeah.
a weird stylistic choice.
Yeah, they don't have like an hourglass figure. They have like a water balloon with a rubber band
Yeah,
on it.
it's like they have
Figure.
hips, and then it's just like no transition. It's just like then a skinny waist all of a sudden.
It's just super weird. And it just couldn't not be weird the whole game for some reason.
I liked it. I like the skinny waist.
I like the skinny waist.
Well, I mean, yeah, like Tetsuya Nomura is like a great character designer, so like he pulls it off. But like it is, I think, worth noting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You just throw a bunch of buttons and zippers all over everybody, and it works.
Did he do all the character design work?
In this game,
Yeah.
I think so.
It's interesting then, because that means a whole lot of the things that I didn't expect him to have a hand in, like emulations of styles of other fashionable clothing from the time period. Like, now this game is like a canon, like, Nomura take on, like, the Gap is within it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of like something that they were going for, so...
I know.
Like, he might not have done all of the clothing designs, but...
It's just we have an answer to so many hypotheticals now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does he think about the Gap? Basically 4 babies. Babies only in this store. Would you like to buy a mono-colored t-shirt and socks that are bright blue and red?
They sell a teddy bear, I think.
Yeah, you can also buy a teddy bear that Niku can carry around for whatever reason. Alright, so it's 81 degrees outside and
Yes.
quite humid, and we're recording this with the AC off, so we're going to take a break to not die.
Thank you.
And then we'll return with more talk on shit. Nailed it.
That was some good talk on shit.
Welcome back. One thing that I'm amazed that I did not mention on the first half is what is, I think, my biggest issue with the game, but I'm not 100% sure that I can, like, levy it as a criticism against the game itself, or if I should take it as a criticism against me. But I hate the save system in this game so much, because they let you save whenever you want, as long as you have control of your character. Why not just have checkpoints? If you're going to be able to save all the time, why not just have a checkpoint system so that if you forget to save, you don't go back an hour?
I was also generally like going back to this game made me realize how much autosaves has improved my life.
Oh, yeah.
Just as like a time system, I had a very strong Nightmare Headstone moment in having to be like, because you do the optimal thing when you're playing a video game, which means every time you do any significant piece of content, you stop and you save.
There's not even a significant modifier. Anytime that I do, I would save after walking from one location to another. Because it's like, because they establish early on that they will initiate a fight upon you crossing a boundary. And I was like, if I die and have to redo this conversation, walk across 3 streets, and then redo another conversation, I will blow my brains out. So I'm gonna save before I even enter the targeted area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that I really relate to the problem because
This seems
I'm
like such a thing that you wouldn't have an issue
Yeah,
with.
I'm somebody who has religiously saved games like his whole life.
Yeah.
Like, I think Pokemon is what trained me to do that, and the fear that your battery might die
Yeah.
at any moment. But like, I'm almost like OCD about saving. I'll save and I'll save again, like just to like make sure that it is saved.
I'm sure that I double saved a lot in The World with You because I would save, then close my DS, and then come back, open it on the menu screen, and just be like, "Oh yeah, just to be safe, save it again."
So that I never even thought about it, like, because I just save all the time anyway.
Yeah, I feel like just implementing a checkpoint system, or God forbid, a skip dialogue system would also have been nice.
Yeah.
Fucking what even one was it? It was right after Rhyme dies. There's a fight with
The shark.
maybe it was the shark. Oh, it was the shark. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I lost to that the first time because it was like a kind of a new mechanic, and so I wasn't like exactly sure how to respond to it.
Yeah.
And then it went back, and I was like, "Oh shit, that was a really long conversation." And I'm just like mashing on the screen.
Yeah.
I hit all the buttons, hoping that there was like a fast forward. Like I think in Metal Gear Solid, there's a checks out next time. On Metal Gear Solid, there's a cool like mechanic where if you're in a codec call and you want to skip the call, you can press a button, and if you press the X button, you can then just press the X button over and over again to like display the next line of text, and then if you press another button, it just fast forwards the whole thing. And that would have worked here because they already don't have like voice acting during these like one-on-ones, so you could have just pressed X through all of them and not had to wait for like the text to draw out and then hit the thing and then wait for it again. But yeah, that's my like minor gripe I want to say with how the game handles itself.
You do bring up a good point that I had really considered, which is like the actual positive utility of save points. Because people, again, now that autosaves exist, this is a conversation that's 10 years out of date, but people always used to rag on save points sometimes because if developers placed them improperly, it would put players in mandated situations where they had to do the sucky part of old video games where you go through the conversation over and over again. But they actually do provide like a good function in comparison to just letting you save whenever, which is the game explicitly like telling you when to save. Like you never have the same like ambiguity that causes save paranoia that makes people just go over and over and over again in cartridge games like this. Mm-hmm. It's like it's one of those circumstances where giving you more freedom can actually like leave open the door for kinds of madness that cause you to waste time because you don't have the information necessary to know when you're wasting time. Mm-hmm. So you end up doing the safe thing because it's a video game.
Yeah, it's like I'd rather save after every fight with the noise than like have to redo because it's just lost time at that point.
Yeah.
Another cool thing that save points do in games is it prevents you from putting yourself into a situation where things are unwinnable. This game, fortunately, does avoid that by just not, like, having... Like, you don't have persistent health. It regenerates at the end of everything. There's literally no difference between going into one fight and another fight unless you changed equipment or leveled up. So,
or if you chained them together.
Or if you did a chain. Which, that was cool.
It was.
As somebody who finds the mechanics of the game generally enjoyable, I liked the fact that, like, my grinding could be, like, fighting a huge, like, 3-chain fight that you could even, like, set yourself up and be like, this is, like, I'll do the big one first, and then, like, the middle one, then the tiny one, or, like, 2 tiny ones, and a huge one is, like, a boss fight. You can play a little narrative out in your head.
Yeah. I think it, like, increases drop rates if you do chain battles as well.
Yeah.
So it speeds up time, gives you more rewards in a way that it still presents, like, an increased challenge. It was a cool way for them to solve that JRPG problem, among the many that they were, part of the train of people solving JRPG problems, which still gets praised even to this day.
No random battles in this one either.
Yeah.
Which, that actually kind of caught me off guard, because the game, therefore, does not have, like, its, like, designated level progression system doesn't work unless you are choosing to fight battles. And so you have to choose to fight battles. It's not a big leap to be like, you want to engage with this game at all? Do it.
I found the chain battles got me, like, to fight enemies more often. Like, every time I go into a place, I'm like, I'll do a chain of 4.
Right.
Move on to the next area. Like, I'd always pick up, like, one chain.
My question... Okay. So you know those pigs? Yeah. Since we're discussing the, like, scanning and doing noises. The fuck with those pigs?
What do you mean?
Like, some of the time, it was real easy to kill a pig.
In week 1, they're easy to kill, and then after that, they're, like, way more challenging. You had to kill them fast enough before they run away.
Are there, like, other fire pins? I'm now just asking as if I'm on, like, Yahoo Answers or something. Because I had a level 3, like, a mastered fire pin, and could not even come close to killing the pig that required a fire pin. Like, I feel like some of the challenges are just like, hey, if you didn't do a thing, fuck off. Like, you can't
those
kill
are like
this
a
pig.
hidden optional thing, though.
Yeah.
This game does have a way of making it so that a lot of the hidden optional content in it is hidden behind a lot of grinding. A lot of the requirements to, like, get into certain areas of the town, even relatively early on in the first week, require you to get, like, low drop weight pins, even things like money pins and things like that.
Yeah.
I like the enemy designs too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the aesthetic design of the enemies is great because they look like a graffiti.
Yeah, they look like okay. You're smarter and better at words than me am. Because I was going to say that they all look like shitty tribal tattoos. Which are great as enemies, but bad to put on your body.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Tribal tattoos are the graffiti of the human person.
Right.
Right.
You say that as if, like, somebody sneaks into someone's room and tattoos a tribal tattoo on their arm.
If you were that kind of person, it would be a tribal tattoo. Like,
Yeah.
what else? Assuming it's not just, like, crazy words, it would definitely be.
Could be crazy words.
Yeah.
I would say of any game to have an enemy from it tattooed on me. This is probably
A good one. The shark.
Yeah, at least in, like, the top 5 or so.
Yeah, because it's cool how they tie the enemies to, like, Neku's theming, where they look like graffiti, which is he's a big fan of street art, and they're also called noise. And his whole thing is that he wears headphones to block out the noise so he doesn't have to talk to people.
They use noise throughout as, like, a double entendre a lot, where they'll sort of use it as a metaphor for something else. Like noise reductions for each round in a chain fight or something like that. And they also use it to symbolize, like, somebody whose thoughts are clouded, so they have, like, noise in their head. And I mean, their theming is pretty much on point throughout the entire game. But I don't think there was ever a moment that I felt like something was, like, inappropriate given the area or whatever it was.
Which is interesting, despite, like, how much of these different stylistic choices they were trying to mesh with, like, an actual physical space. Like, I've never been to Japan. I don't know a lot of what they were riffing on stylistically, but in a lot of games like this, you could see how in a game that was this obsessed with a certain subset of Japanese culture, that could have been seriously to the detriment of the game to outside fans. Something that's, like, so insular on the particular design or the kind of things they have reverence to. Like, they could have made, like, talking about, like, the statue of Hachiko, like, really weird, but it just comes off with all of, like, the different veneers that they put off it, like a really interesting urban fantasy setting, even though it's all riffs on real places.
It feels like a sci-fi, like, fantasy kind of thing, where, like, they throw you into this, like, almost like a cyberpunk. Well, this game isn't cyberpunk, but like if the kind of feeling you get from like
Right.
a sci-fi fantasy setting, like a cyberpunk fantasy setting, where like it feels like just familiar enough, but just real enough.
I would actually be really interested to see the like localized version of this game compared to like a direct Japanese translation, because it, particularly in Niku's case, I feel like he acts as almost like a surrogate to the Western audience a lot.
He's a little bit of a fish out of water sometimes.
Yeah, because he gives off he gives off that he doesn't, not that he just doesn't care about things, which is what he does at the beginning of the game, but that he like legitimately doesn't know, and they give him the amnesia thing. But even going into like week 2 and 3, having to have like cultural things explained to him. Barring ramen, like evidently that's just like a universal.
Everyone loves it.
Everyone loves ramen.
Yep.
Including apparently gross fish ramen. There's a scene in week 2 where he eats gross fish ramen. Yeah.
I thought I've had some good fish ramen.
Oh yeah.
To defend
He
fish
was
ramen.
just like, oh, this looks gross, and then Josh was like, this is fucking good. That was like the whole bit. It didn't make
You
me
don't know
want
what
to
you're
eat that.
fucking talking about.
Yeah.
Shut your face.
I would totally eat that ramen though. It looked really real tasty.
From Ramen Don.
Yeah, Ramen Don, the best named ramen
Oh god, I
restaurant.
didn't get that.
What? Fuck you. That's maybe the most obvious joke in the whole game. Chad just did an actual spit take of Deja Blue. It was so refreshing.
I couldn't because I couldn't exhale out of my mouth or out of my nose because I'm recovering from a cold. It was just the fuck you.
I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time around Jewish things.
To be fair, you would have to say it out loud to get it.
Yeah,
So-
I don't think so. I, at 15 or whatever, immediately got that. So,
Either way,
it seems impossible that you could play through it twice and not pick up on that.
so the plot of this game, to me, not the plot, I guess, but the characters, particularly in the Reapers and like the authority figures, not necessarily like all the way up, but especially in the early chapters when they're
The Game Masters.
yeah, when they're discussed as like more shadowy type figures as opposed to like literal things that you just know about, plays like a D&D campaign where everyone is just super into what they're doing.
Like, they're all into their roles.
They're like real into it. Like, I love the fact that the first game master like uses cooking metaphors for like literally every sentence. And I mean, it obviously continues on into the second week with the math guy.
Yeah.
The Grim Heaper.
Yes, the Grim Heaper.
Did you get that joke, Jake?
Yes. But even the Reapers who are like the one who is obsessed with like getting points and being like the best Reaper.
Pink hair, corset girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy,
And
the lazy
redhead
guy.
lollipop guy.
Yeah. Pink hair, corset guy, girl, and
Redhead lollipop guy.
redhead lollipop guy.
They really should have given them like nicknames because they just have like regular Japanese names that are hard for Americans to remember.
Yeah. Yeah, like they do with every other character in
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
Because I like those characters, but don't know their names.
That it really is the tragedy of having a very Japanese name in a Western audience release.
Tragic. Completely tragic.
I mean, if those characters could feel, they would be sad that no one, not a soul, remembers their name.
Are you sure they wouldn't just be like angry that we don't remember their names because they're
And
Japanese?
then they would erase us.
And yeah, I'd say at worst one of them would be angry and the other one would be like, whatever.
Okay.
I don't have to work today.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Let's see, cargo shorts. The word Slammurai, quotes from the crazy food guy. I didn't like him initially, which is why I wrote this
Wait,
down.
crazy food guy?
The first
Game Master.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it grew on me eventually. It like when they kept doing it over and over, literally constantly, it fell in
Right.
line with their standard sense of humor. Where at the beginning of it, I thought they were trying to use it as like, in the same way that they were trying to use his aesthetic as like actual cool villainous guy. Like they were trying to play off his like ridiculous food puns as if they were like serious villain talk. But it's neither here nor there.
We've preheated long enough. Cool villain lines 101. He flunked.
Oh yeah, the other mechanic that we haven't touched on literally at all, imprinting.
Memes.
Yeah, memes.
Let's talk about memes like we do every week on our meme podcast. Our hot fresh memes straight out of the oven. Now these are memes in a literal, linguistically correct sense.
Yes.
Not image macros.
So the imprinting thing, as a mechanic, is something I actually really enjoyed throughout the game. I don't know how to like characterize it, because when you're playing the game, it is very much about like these like weird experimental almost mechanics that the game has. But then like through week 2, because week 1 you're like learning all the mechanics, they give you these whole days where you're just going and doing these little like puzzles, or like you have to like follow a person around and figure out what they're doing and influence what they're doing and get them to do a certain thing to do your mission or whatever.
Right.
And I found those are some of my favorite parts of the game.
Yeah.
Like, but they're like kind of shallow and they aren't really developed, but they're still enjoyable. Like, I don't really know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It's like another part of that weird melting pot that is this game.
Yeah. I have to. I think that you hit it basically right on the head with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
Like the whole Reaper Creeper thing.
Exactly.
And I'm like,
I
this
think
is cool.
what needs to exist that could be replicated on like non-DS hardware if necessary.
If this was like a visual novel.
I feel like they should just do like a spin-off game that's just like called Reaper Creeper. And the idea is that, because like you learn that as a meme in week 1, but you can't use it most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So but like, how cool would it be if you could just like scan a person, they're expressing indecision, you imprint Reaper Creeper, they decide to play it, and then you can then influence what they do from there.
Yeah.
And the puzzles always have solutions that are kind of like just handed to you. It's really rarely anything that's like not super cerebral.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of potential in this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a thing that some games have tried, but I think this implementation is just cute and funny enough to warrant its own thing.
Yeah, it's like they wanted to like push like a little like detective kind of thing in there. Mm-hmm. Like a version of this game that takes the premise of like you're like a ghost detective that can only like influence people like subconsciously like that could actually be like really cool, right? If it just used
as
that,
long
like,
as it wasn't
set.
Murdered Soul Suspect, where you can kind of do this, but it is a trash game. I guess it wasn't that bad. It's a pretty bad game.
I literally only know the title Murdered Soul Suspect.
Right. Are you aware that it's spelled S-O-U-L?
Is this the game?
Soul Suspect.
Was this the game that was kind of like a Telltale game that we played with Dan?
But like occasionally you would have to like jump
cat.
to lights to get away from like a demon.
Wait, is it? I don't think we're talking about the same game.
Are you talking about Alan Wake?
No.
In
Murder Was this a PC
right.
game?
It was a PS4 game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. We're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Because there's also
It is
another
on
game
PC.
that I think is like this, that is like a DS game that I thought you might have been talking about.
There's Ghost Trick.
That might be it.
That's where you have to prevent people's deaths.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So we're thinking of the same thing.
Not Phoenix Wright?
No, not Phoenix. He's not dead.
Are you sure?
Yes.
In the Sexy Brutale, you also have to prevent people's death by altering the circumstances, but you're not a ghost, you're a guy who just relives the same 1
like a
hour
Groundhog
over and
Day
over again.
thing.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Premises.
That's a pretty neat game.
Nice, yeah, some nice game ideas.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So,
it's the kind of thing about the game, to get back once again to the matter at hand, that makes me want to see a sequel. Like, mechanically, of the mechanical side of things, I'd like to see a sequel that iterates and polishes this stuff. But then, like, narratively, it's got, like, such a nice end to it that, like, I wouldn't want, them to mess with that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of torn.
It has to be like new characters.
Well,
or something.
yeah, if they did it with the same characters, that would be dumb.
Yeah, I agree. What if, like, I can only imagine the sort of things they could have done given the access to 3D.
Oh, yeah, on the 3DS?
Yeah.
I can't. They couldn't have possibly put that into the mechanics.
Why not?
I mean, yes,
The
technically
game
they
as it
could've.
is, and then you were just like, hey, you can also use 3D.
Right.
No, they couldn't have. But, like, if you handed them the 3DS instead of the DS...
Do you think they would have tried to have done something?
Yeah,
like
the
that?
way that you tried to utilize pretty much everything about the DS that they could, besides the microphone.
There's pins that you yell at.
Never mind, they used the microphone.
Yeah.
They would have tried to use the 3D.
Yeah.
I love that Square managed to do that, like, actually use everything on the DS.
Yeah.
Unlike Nintendo, like, Phantom Hourglass is like, how, like, blow out a candle or something.
That's actually kind of cool.
That's fine.
There are, like, some puzzles where you have to blow into the mic.
Right.
I think it's neat.
I forget, did Nintendo publish...
There's a fucking puzzle you have to solve by closing the DS.
Oh, yeah.
To, like, stamp something onto the bottom screen.
That is actually awesome.
Yeah, that's genius.
Like, they did a lot of cool stuff early on, and then we're just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, Mario game. 2D Mario game.
But yeah, I haven't played every DS game.
Right.
Far from it. But I feel like this is the game that, like, might use the DS to, like, its full potential.
Definitely.
Right. And its full potential is staggering, both in the number of things you can do and, like, mentally just tiresome.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, after we're done with the podcast, I'm going to go home and start Googling, like, expert playthroughs and things like that. I'm really hoping they balance
Just
the
start
game in
Googling
such a way.
memes over and over.
I watched a playthrough of the final boss fight, but this guy had, like, all these pins that, like, I've never seen before. And, like, it was, like, this giant wall of, like, blue fire that he was, like, dragging around. And I'm like, and, like, he's doing, like, so much damage, like, right off the bat.
He's
like,
so cool, man.
And, like, because, like, in the boss fight, the final boss fight, when you get into it, like, you're just, like, trying to hit the boss and you're doing, like, 5 damage, like, with your pins. And this guy's just, like, doing, like, 75 damage. And I'm like, oh, man, those pins are real good.
Way better
I have no
pins than
idea
my
how to
pins.
get those.
I'm assuming another mechanic that we didn't talk about at all. Some pins can evolve. So maybe that's like the evolved form of a pin.
Yeah,
that's
probably.
the Charizard to the Flame Pin's Charmander.
Yeah. This game really does have a way of instilling, like, a consumeristic urge to acquire.
Yeah, I'd
Acquire
also,
pins.
like, be curious, like, as to, like, how to get all that kind of stuff.
There are secret pins, I think.
Yeah, I know. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you probably have to do that second playthrough to get a lot of it.
Yeah. As a co-host of a video games podcast, it should probably come as no surprise to people that I treat howlongtobeat.com as, like, a valuable resource. This game, How Long to Beat page, is ludicrous. Because it's like, main game, 28 hours. Main plus extras, 58 hours. Completion is 180 hours. Like, there's so much shit in this game that, like, you wouldn't even know about at all.
It's so easy to be completely oblivious to, like, so much stuff in this game.
Yeah.
I've
You're
done
not
3
wrong.
playthroughs, and I don't know jack shit. So, we haven't talked about the music, really.
That's good call.
This is a good call. It's bad. No, it's really good.
And I say the music's one of my favorite things about the game.
One thing, probably the only negative thing I can say about the music, so I'm just going to get it out of the way, because I do really like it, is that there's something kind of novel about having having lyrics in your like overworld music, and like any sort of music like this in a JRPG, but like the novelty wears off after a little while, and it's made worse by the fact that the reason that people don't put lyrics in overworld music is because it loops, and so you end up with like you'll be listening to the same like
See, I think it's just like, I don't know what the right word is, but like it's just like melodic enough, and like the words being said are like drawn out enough that like I cease hearing them as words, and it's just kind of music in the background to me.
And of course that the actual overworld music is a really bad example from my side, because it really is like the lyrics are being used.
Because like I've played Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I know neither of you have played.
You're right,
but it goes for a similar style in like some of the music and some like in the main city. Oh my god, it's 500 times worse than the music in this game. This game, like, it feels like they actually considered that, and like the lyrics aren't obnoxious.
Yeah.
Oh man, like Xenoblade Chronicles X, you'll like never want to go back into the city because of the song that plays. Because like at first I was like, oh yeah, like I reckon like this style, like because I played The World Ends With You, like, oh yeah, I'm into this. And then I'm like, oh no. This is the only song that plays here.
Yeah. I think they did a really good job with the actual composition of the music in this game, because they do sort of, they try and blend like the different genres of pop music into like a version that works with within the universe of the game. I think they were overall really successful with it.
And I like how they have like the diegetic excuse, like that it's like the music that Neku is listening to on his headphones.
Right. It's weird that he changes the track on his MP3 player every time he opens the phone.
Yeah. You can't tell there's limitations coming into play, like with the DS with that, and the kind of things they could do with sound design. Because that was honestly my least favorite part about this fantastic soundtrack and general sound design of the game, was tons of like really normal actions that you go through change the song that's playing, so you don't really get into like a musical rhythm. Unless you're like doing something that takes a long time, like an individual combat or something. Right. When this game seems to have such a good sense of rhythm, otherwise, especially considering how much you had to save. Like you just kept changing the overworld track to the other track back to a different overworld track
with a like almost ironically appropriate record scratch noise. Yeah. It's like, oh, saving the game again. And then it just dead silence while it saves. And then kicks back in when it goes to the menu. Yeah, if it was, because that was just sort of like, that's a DS thing. Like that's weird. They made a game on the DS and like couldn't necessarily really avoid that. I mean, they could have done like Monkey Island style like music blending as you transition from area to area,
dynamic tracks.
But they're working on a cartridge, and we're not using minis anymore, so it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, but on to the individual quality though, like I still listen to Twister. It's been like 10 years since this game came out.
That means nothing to me.
See, I don't know the names of the tracks.
Oh, I thought that would be enough to catch it, considering that the word Twister is said. It's the one that people always associate with this game. The one that they ported to Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like the use of sound design, as you mentioned as well. Like I really love the little voice clips. It's like such a simple little addition, but like adds so much personality to the characters that wouldn't be there otherwise.
Oh yeah. You can like, albeit I guess I never saw Beat's fusion move, but you can tell like how Nico responds to his partner with the way that the fusion voice tracks go. Because like Shiki's is ready to die, and he's like, then die. And Joshua's my favorite because he's just like, follow my lead. Screw that. Yeah.
That's the best one.
Yeah.
What Beat says, I think, just get with the beat or something. And I can't remember what Neku says to him.
It's because it came up so rarely. Because it was so hard to get fusions with Beat.
I actually triggered it a decent amount. I actually got, like, I don't know if it's a thing with the other characters, but, like, a double fusion thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, you would trigger the fusion, and then if you didn't use it, you could then stack another one.
Yeah.
Beat was the only character I ever managed to, like, do that with.
Mm-hmm. It was rare for sure. I got it a couple of times with Shiki just because I had all the clothing that gave free stars.
He says, "Pick it up, phones." Is what he says.
Oh,
pick it up, phones.
Yeah. Nintendo ended up learning this lesson later in other similar games. The Fire Emblem series also has a whole lot of written text on screen, and they adapted this lesson by in Awakening, giving characters their own little like tiny voice clips. It's nice. Going backwards, I never made the connection before, but I can see how like giving the characters a literal voice in a game like this, especially a DS game, Lord.
Yeah.
It's something that's like in development. It's a pretty big hurdle to go from literally nothing to having voices.
Something as a reference in your own mind.
Right.
It'd be really cool if you could do that with books somehow. Like, you give characters like a voice.
It's like the greeting card, like
in.
opening thing. Like when you turn the page to the page with the character's voice on it, it just like plays a clip.
Yeah, you incorporate like elements from like children's books where like they have like the little buttons that like play and stuff. Like you open it to the back and there's like a glossary of characters and like you hit the button next to their picture and it plays their voice.
I'm just imagining like a full novel that has like the extended back cover with the fucking plastic buttons with like a picture of a cat next to it.
The speaker up top. And it's like The Great Gatsby or something.
That's so fucking good.
I think that'd be bad with spoilers. If you had like especially like depending on the lines that they do say. You could,
I would imagine it would just be simple lines. Like not even necessarily anything that's actually in the novel.
You killed my mother!
Yeah, like it's...
But yeah, there's a lot of little touches. Like even like when you scan, like how like the bottom screen is like Neku's face, like, you know, doing that, and it has the sound effect of like the boo as it expands. It's like a lot of little things like that that really pull you in.
Yeah.
I assume neither of you guys spent a lot of time reading the little things that people say when you scan them.
All three of my playthroughs, I've done that like the first week and then just stopped doing it.
Why are the things that they say completely insane like 20% of the time?
Oh, 20%? It's got to be higher than that, right?
I mean, I didn't take measurements.
They're like everyone that you scan is a crazy person. Like nobody's like, oh, I should go home and feed the dog. Everyone is having a crisis, and that crisis is usually stupid. But my favorite one is the fact that this one guy I scanned, and he was like, I'm feeling pretty fashionable, like some such shit. Like he says something where he was he was proud about the way that he looked. Uh-huh. And I scanned another guy, and he said that he looked dumpy. And he was the same model. And I was just like, I guess they only have one of these guys.
Fashion guy.
Yeah, fashion guy. Good or bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all crazy. And I think that there are only like 13 different ones outside of unique ones.
Definitely felt like an underutilized.
For how often you have to, they probably could have just cut them out.
See, I feel like they had to have it there for the times it comes up, like
right, narratively.
Like when you have to do it. But like, man, they should have come up with some more stuff.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have been that. I mean, maybe I'm talking out of my ass here, but it doesn't seem like they couldn't have just dedicated one guy to be like, spend like your whole shift today just writing down things that people think about.
Oh, what, you think they didn't do that until it was like, oh no, what do people think about?
They only
And then
came up
panicked.
with 12 things.
Yeah, I feel like it would be like reasonable for them to come up with different things for the people to be thinking like every single day.
Or just reduce the density of them on the screen
that
at once
too.
as well.
Yeah. Spread them out.
Yeah. Though maybe it worked to their advantage because, like, if there's a whole bunch of them, you're probably not going to check all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And so if they start you by only giving you, like, a few to scan, you'll read them all and be like, I understand this now. And you go to the next one, there's like 100. You're like, whoa! People think about lots of stuff. You just move on. Don't try and read them all.
Right.
Yeah.
We usually like talk about the ending of the game. You want to do that here?
I can imagine that the reason I didn't think to do that
You didn't
is
finish
because I
it?
didn't finish the game. But I did read the ending, so I'm aware of it. How did it make you guys feel?
I really like the ending. Like the game did a really good job, I think, with Joshua, like with subverting your expectations of like you keep thinking like, oh, he's this, oh, he's this, oh, he's this. Like you keep changing your mind, and then in the end, he ends up being the composer. And I think it's really kind of weird and abrupt how he, like, at the end, he's just like challenging you to a shoot-off. This is a draw.
It's weird.
And then
Yeah.
what they're going for is that he's like learned the lesson to like trust your partner, and he just like lets Joshua shoot him and trust that he like knows what's best and everything. That comes off so abrupt. And he's like after the fight, and then Joshua's like, "Hey Neku, you did it. You were my choice all along. You did beautifully. Great job, Neku. Now I'm gonna shoot you." Like, and you're like, oh man, like Neku was crying, and you're like, oh my god. Like, what?
It's the same abruptness that like an actual mugging would have on
Yeah,
you
it's
emotionally.
it's really weird.
Even a mugging, like, if you see a guy who's going to mug you, 100% you know that guy is going to mug you.
No, it's like
nobody's ever mugged somebody by surprise.
No,
You
it's-
don't walk up to somebody and be like, oh, you're wearing, like, a dark hoodie, holding both your hands in your pockets, like, leaning toward me, walking rather quickly. Maybe he wants to, like, talk about the movie I just saw.
no, it's like if one of your friends suddenly pulled a gun on you and mugged you.
Yes, that.
But then, of course, it works out. It cuts to, like, 7 days later. Does the nice subversion of, like, keeping track of the days and everything. And you meet up with Shiki and Beat and Rhyme at the statue, the wolf statue. And it's a nice little end, and they show you this much of Shiki's face. You don't get to see it all.
I'm still sad about that.
Yeah.
Isn't she just the girl in the picture on the phone at the beginning?
But they masked that with a
Yeah,
glare.
you can't see it.
Oh, I didn't care.
They show like the bottom like part of her face, and like there are like artists' renditions of like what her whole face would look like.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you got that.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a pretty nice sweet little ending.
Maybe they only show the bottom part of her face because Nikki only ever shows the top part of his face.
I think they
So
complete
they
each
can
other.
finally have a whole face.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why she didn't want to be herself, is because she didn't have...
She has like a horrible burn
Right.
on the top of her
Yeah,
face.
and Nico has no jaw. Just
Yeah.
at all.
He like leans back when he's happy. I thought that was actually
Yeah,
a cool
no, that's a
costume.
total
He
lie
slumps
on my
down
part.
into like his little scarf thing or whatever it is,
Yeah,
collar.
Yeah, that's just a collar. That's just
Yeah.
an unbelievable inhuman representation of what a collar
Yeah,
is.
and then like his
Yeah.
hair covers enough, like his hair comes down over his eyes, and he puts his face down in his collar.
Yeah.
It's a nice touch.
He turtles up really hard like Leonardo DiCaprio when he's trying to avoid the paparazzi.
One thing that this game does, in relation to the ending, is that like how they handle guns in the universe is so like I don't know. It's almost realistic in the way that a lot of people talk about guns, but actually not that many people actually have a gun. Where like Joshua is shown to have a gun, at several points during the story. And then that one Reaper is just like, I'm gonna have to go make some new players, and like pulls out a fucking revolver. And you're like, huh. Like, that's new. But like nobody ever actually uses a gun until like at the end of the game.
Right.
So it is kind of cool, but then also very jarring that one time that a revolver was produced out of nowhere.
Yeah. Guns are always jarring in an urban setting.
It's true. Well, not in video games.
Yeah.
In most games.
Yeah, that's what's so like.
I meant in reality.
Yeah.
And this presents guns in like a grounded way.
Yeah, the
Like,
gun
this
is
is not a shooter. You don't have to like break down that wall. But yeah, I think that's all I got to say about the ending.
It's really cute.
Thank you for listening to NoClip this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about Metal Gear Solid. The original Metal Gear Solid, which I'm going to have to find a way to play the PlayStation 1 version, as my disc is sadly missing, and I only have the Twin Snakes, which is not an appropriate...
It's not
analog.
appropriate. No, it's just not appropriate.
Not inappropriate. Until then, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find all of our contact information on our website, noclippodcast.com. Check us out on YouTube by searching NoClip Podcast. On iTunes, Google Play. Leave us a rating and a review.
I love that we ended this with like a fast, steamy dump on the Twin Snakes.
Oh, that shouldn't be taken. I actually prefer the Twin Snakes because I'm a blasphemer. Well, mostly because Metal Gear Solid 2 is my favorite game, and Metal Gear Solid the Twin Snakes uses the engine from that game, and I feel like it just plays better. And also because I am one of those people who looks at Solid Snake's fucking like blocky ass Minecraft face on the PS1 and goes like, ugh. So that's why I prefer it.
Can't wait to see how you feel about his blocky ass Minecraft face.
I mean, I've seen his face before.
But you haven't seen it like this. Hard cut.
But you had an app on your phone called
yes.
which was just pictures of just memes of
Right.
But they weren't referred to as memes.
This is what I mean.
I
Like,
feel- hold
obviously,
on.
the memes predate.
I feel as though that would be an amazing sentence for me to just insert comically timed censorship bleeps.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.